D2DU is the world's hub for door-to-door sales training. Our vision is to give companies and reps access to the best of the best for industry-specific content. We help companies co-create their own custom training platform, giving them the ability to add their own trainings, quizzes, and videos. This gives eyes into the sales rep's performance of how well they're actually learning the best sales practices and improving. Our core curriculum focuses on sales, leadership, recruiting, and personal development, so it can be used from brand new reps all the way up to your executives. We have seen direct correlation from our content to your sales performance. If you want to be the best, you got to learn from the best. Now sign up now for a demo at d2du.com.
Hey guys, how's it going? I wanted to start off by thanking Sam for asking me to be a part of this Door-to-Door Con virtual. I think it's a really unique experience where sales reps now are able to jump online and actually just view an entire sales training from guys from the all over the industry just by simply hopping onto Facebook. So I'm excited to be a part of this. I thought for my training, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to train on exactly. Obviously, I come from the satellite industry, and previous to that, to the alarm industry. And I had a couple questions about what I was really going to talk about. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit and talk about a few different things that have made a big difference to me, and kind of talk about some specific things to both selling satellite, but really things you can apply to door-to-door, whether that's alarm, security, pest control, whatever other product you're selling. So the very first thing I guess that I wanted to talk about is just good habits. So things to me that are important that I do every single time that seem to produce big days day in and day out. Because for me, that is the overwhelming difference between good reps and great reps is their consistency factor. How often are they able to go out and consistently produce big numbers day in and day out? I think as you look around in company to company, there's lots of guys who can do big numbers one day or 3 days a week, but to go out every single day and get predictable results, the same thing every single day, those are the guys that impress me. So for me, when I look at my own personal selling career, I think the summers where I really learned or the summers where I finally had breakout years where I produced these really big numbers, it came down to a bunch of little things that I did every single day that guaranteed that result. So what I mean by that is I know people go out every single day kind of wondering what they're going to get. They start the day off and maybe they're not very focused. Maybe they are having a good day or a bad day. Maybe they went to the gym. Maybe they didn't go to the gym. Maybe they did their power hour. Maybe they didn't do their power hour. But they didn't really have a specific plan for the day. And for me, what I've tried to do is to put in habits that ultimately guaranteed me that result. So what I mean by this is every single day, I start off the exact same way. So wake up in the morning, 7 a.m., have breakfast, have a good breakfast, go for a quick run or do some stretching. And then right away, I would dive into what I call power hour. So power hour essentially is 30 to 40 minutes of time, could be an hour, 30 to 40 minutes of time spent doing something that's going to help improve who you are, whether that's reading money management books, whether that's for some people it's studying the training manual, for some people it's reading leadership books, sales training, whatever it is. 30 to 40 minutes every single day spent doing something specific that was going to help kind of get my mind in the place where I felt like it would, customers would be more open to me. So every single day, first thing, check that off. Second thing, every single day is my affirmation statements. So this is something that I'm really big on that I think a lot of guys kind of just forget about. But affirmation statements to me have basically been an anthem. It's something that I've been really big on when I talk at trainings within my organization, or even outside of it, has been coming up with a kind of a theme for why you're doing what you're doing. So an affirmation statement that I used over and over again was, my name is Melink and I'm my greatest ally. I'm cool, calm, and secure, positive, hardworking, and do not stop knocking doors until after dark. I wake up every single day feeling prepared to hit my goal, and I don't stop knocking doors until I hit my goal. I will sell 450 accounts this summer and lead this company by example day in and day out. My goal is my reality. I will achieve it. Nothing can stand in my way. So after doing Power Hour, as I started my day, when I was in the shower every single morning, those were the first things that came out of my mouth. I'm already actively engaged, thinking about the day. How is the day going to go? Because I know that to go out and actually do 5 or 6 accounts every single day, there needs to be these small little stepping stones that get you there. Because I think a lot of guys focus on, the sales as the stepping stones. They think, oh, in order to get 6 sales, I have to start with 1, then 2, then 3, which is true. But for me, my stepping stones started much earlier in the day, doing these little basic small things that for me, in the grand scheme of things, added up to, the big day on the doors. So for me, like I said, Power Hour, then affirmation statements. Affirmation statement for me, I use it to, number 1, remind me of why I'm doing what I'm doing. But number 2, it helps keep me in a very middle level spot. As I watch salesmen in this industry, I think there's a lot of emphasis on getting super hyped and getting really jacked, and a lot of energy and emotion and excitement to go knock. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's good, but I think it's really, really temporary. I think that type of energy fades just as fast as it comes. So for me, I've never been, somebody who's really into big chants or loud music on the way to area. For me, I've really started the whole process in my head, and it's a gradual buildup, and I'm maintaining a certain level of emotional attitude or mindset throughout the day. I'm not having these real big peaks and valleys. So in a lot of ways, that's how I differ. I think for the first couple of years, I was always trying to get myself hyped up. And for me, the affirmation statement is something that I say in my greatest moments, when I close, my 7th, 8th, 9th deal, or in the moments when, I just got the door signed in my face, or, I had a customer fail credit, or had a deal that should have gotten through but didn't. So for me, that's how I use my affirmation statement. And I've said that thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times throughout the years of selling. And like I said, it's been something that I can use to remind me of what I'm doing, and to bring me to that mental state where I'm in the middle, where I'm not too high and I'm not too low. Because to me, there's no question that customers have the best reception when that's the type of personality that you're giving off. That's the type of emotion that you're giving off to them. So those are the very first 2 things. Second thing, I should say third thing, is spending a little bit of time knowing exactly where I would be knocking that day. So when I start the day, I've already looked at my map. I've already looked at my sales rabbit, or whatever I'm using to track my area. And I know exactly where I'm going. I'm making sure that wherever I'm going is going to give me the opportunity or the chance to sell the numbers I'm trying to do. So, for example, I think it's great. Staying in your area a long time is great, and that's really, really important, tracking area and having good area management. But I think sometimes guys don't even put themselves on the field to even get the numbers that they're wanting. They might be knocking, really, really poor low income stuff, or they might be knocking houses that are so far away that they're not able to put up the numbers they want. So every single day before I go out to area, I know where I'm starting. I know, the type of area that I'm going into, whether that be, whether it's got good, whether it's got a lot of DirecTV customers, a lot of cable customers, whether it has, good service for Sprint, as that's what we're selling more and more now. My whole thing with this, though, is making sure that wherever I'm going, I'm putting myself in a place to be successful and to hit the number that I'm trying to hit. So that's a really big part. Check out my map, know exactly where I'm starting, and I know exactly what time I'm going to be out there. So those are the first 3 things. The fourth thing to me that really rings a bell is having urgency in the early part of the day. This is even before you get on the doors. For me personally, I was the top rep in 2014 at DishOne and the top rep in 2015 at DishOne. And both years, there was a lot of talented sales reps who I knew probably had the ability to beat me, whether it was on any given day. But I knew if I could outlast and be more consistent than they were day in and day out, that I would be more successful. So for me, from the second that I woke up, I had that little biting feeling, that little itch that I had to get out there. The day wasn't right, or I didn't have quite a right feeling until I knocked my first door. So for me, there was a huge amount of urgency to make sure that I was knocking by a certain time every day. And for me, that meant getting my first sale, walking on my first sale by 2 o'clock. What I found is getting my first sale by 2 o'clock was a big time stepping stone in order for me to hit my numbers every single day. If I had my first sale by 2, that means the rest of the day was set up to hit my overall goal. So what that meant for me is that on the doors by 12:45, giving myself an hour and 15 minutes to get that first deal. Now, I know a lot of guys have, might not get a sale as quick or might get a sale quicker than I do on average. But the key for me was figuring out what that sweet spot was and really, really honing in and focusing to get that first sale by 2. Because, again, I knew myself down to the T, and I know what it takes for me to get the numbers that I want. In order for me to do that, in order for me to have enough time and to reach enough qualified buyers, I have to be knocking or have to get that first sale by 2, get on the doors by 12:45. So for you, make your day consistent, make your summer consistent by starting the same time. You want predictable results. The last thing that you want is, again, 1 one day, and then 0, and then 3, and then 0, and then 5, and then 1, and then 2. That's you'll have a good summer and you'll make good money, but you'll never be, elite or the top guy if you don't start the same. If you don't start the day doing the same thing and you don't have predictable results. Because, again, what I found is the more little things that I could tie to that success, whether that be getting up at the same time, doing my power, adding affirmation statements, getting on the doors at the same time, using kind of a shot clock throughout the day, getting off the doors at the same time, knowing what I was going to eat. The more I could do that, the more little things I could add to that, the more predictable my results became, and the more automatic it came, and the easier it actually became to follow that schedule. A lot of guys ask me, how did you follow, or how did you do what you do? How did you follow the schedule? And for me, it just came down to, it's like a train. The faster the train goes, the more momentum it has, the harder it is to stop. And for me, I just kept going all summer. The second you put the brakes on, man, makes it so much harder to pick up pace again. So for me, just maintaining that speed and maintaining those habits every single day, even on the days off or even on the bad days, that's kind of what I could boil the success down to is I never wanted to have that feeling where I went out, took a couple mental days off and had a couple poor days, and then kind of felt like I had to start over again and rebuild myself up. So, making that decision one time for me to go all in and to follow exactly what I said I was going to do really was a big part of it. So, again, resist the temptation to waver from your routine, because wavering from it makes it so much harder to start up again. Taking, a random day off or just doing anything outside of that regular routine makes it really, really hard to start again. Okay, so that was a little bit about habits and kind of the, routine and whatnot. Second part I wanted to talk about was actually on the door time. So mastering prospecting and area management. So for me, again, and this comes back to the idea of routine and knowing my numbers, knowing myself, I want to have as much data as I possibly can about where I'm knocking, how many qualified customers I'm coming across, how many how many people I'm just not getting because I'm not good enough, meaning they were qualified but I couldn't sell them. I want to know my stats so that I can use that to motivate myself. I think, again, far too many sales reps, they come home and they feel like, hey, I had a bad day. I didn't sell that many accounts, or I sold no accounts. And I go to ask them how your day went, and they just said, oh, the area sucked, or couldn't find anyone home, or couldn't close, or they give me an answer like that. And I think the reality gets lost in those kinds of statements. What actually happened, and actually the real results got lost in those statements. So for me, what I try to do is I try to have a really organized system for labeling houses, and I follow that religiously. I make sure that when I label a house, I know exactly what that means. I'm able to easily identify that from my iPad, so I'm not walking around wondering why I marked this house. And I have something that allows me to track my actual production. So at the end of the day, I can look back and say, how many qualified customers I talked to, how many customers or how many houses did I knock where I actually wasted my time knocking that house because it wasn't home? And then how many customers did I actually close, right? And then finally, how many customers did I knock on and I just couldn't get them because I wasn't good enough? So for me, I keep it pretty simple. For a house that's not home, I don't mark it. So immediately when I'm walking down the street, I can tell the house is at home. I don't need to waste my time there. I don't even need to look at it or second guess it. I can just go back and hit it again, or I can pass over it if I still don't think they're home. Second thing, I mark a house if they were not qualified. So if there's something that's preventing them from getting the service, meaning, in the TV world, they have Dish already, or they had a previous balance, or they failed credit. One of those things, I'll mark that with what I call a not qualified. Regardless of how good that I am, I'm not going to be able to get it. Okay. And then the final two things are a customer who obviously I sold, and then there's also a customer who I wasn't good enough to sell. So no matter how hard I worked, I just wasn't good enough in that moment. They weren't ready at that moment to purchase, so I couldn't get them. So by breaking it down like that, I have a very realistic understanding of my day, and I can go back and write out, this is how the day went, this is what happened, this is how many qualified buyers, and this is kind of obsessive, but I actually track those things. So I know exactly what my numbers are. I know exactly how many customers I have to talk to, or houses I have to visit, or how many qualified buyers I have to see in order to hit my numbers. And so that really helped me, or has helped me, really break down my day and figure out where I'm wasting time.
Here is a quick word from one of our awesome sponsors.
Meet Steve. He has had his glory days in sales, but finds himself in a bind financially and gets offered an advance to help him get started at a company that is actively recruiting him. He goes out optimistic and starts selling, but finds the job challenging. A new company approaches Steve with greener pastures, and Steve says the only way for him to be able to work there is he needs money and takes another $5,000 sign-on bonus. He then gets out on the doors and finds himself struggling. Blaming the area and the training, Steve, frustrated and broke again, reaches out to another company and asks for more money. This happens way too often. Don't take a chance on your cash advance by verifying your reps before handing out advances. Know if reps have unpaid debts from previous employers, and help future employers wasting money hiring people that have low integrity. Sign up and register your reps on salesblacklist.com and help make the industry a better place.
What I found is I've gotten much better, much more efficient at finding customers home. I don't knock houses that aren't home. I don't waste time with people who aren't qualified. So my day is spent very effectively, and that for me has allowed me to get sales really early throughout the day, to get sales really late, and to put a lot of sales on in those medium hours, those 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So again, the more you can understand about your performance and your numbers, the better you can get. The more you can look at the weak points and start adjusting those, making tweak here, tweak there. I really think of myself when I'm out there on the doors as kind of like a fine-tuned machine. You're trying to figure out, hey, how can I tweak this here to get a little bit better results? Because in the whole scheme of thing, on the summertime, those small tweaks can mean thousands of dollars. If you can figure out ways to just get half of more sale per day on average, that produces big numbers throughout the year, and that's what I'm trying to do. Last part about that is looking for areas of improvement. I kind of already mentioned that, but really dialing into yourself and being honest with yourself about where you're weak, where you're falling short, why you're not getting the results you want. And for me, I had to have hard conversations with myself and ask myself, was I working hard enough? Was I getting in the doors consistently? Was I staying out as late as I should be? Was I spending too much time at lunch? Was it taking me too long to drop reps off? Was I getting preoccupied during the day with things that didn't matter? Was I allowing myself to be distracted? Like those types of things, those hard conversations, and being really socially aware with yourself, that pays dividends. I think that far too often sales reps make excuses for their performance, and they don't own up to the little details and have that hard conversation with themselves. So if you can learn to do that, if you can learn to analyze yourself as opposed to having to rely on somebody else, that really allows you to make big progress and big gains much faster. Kind of on that same token, tracking my results and my competition obsessively. So similar to what I was just kind of talking about, again, I know this is taking it to another level, but that's what this is all about. So literally, I would track when I'm selling full time in the summertime, I would track my average sale time, my average time getting on the doors, average time getting off the doors, my average commission per sale, as well as my average quality score, meaning, if your company operates based on quality of sale, tracking my average number of that, tracking my cancellation percentage, tracking my daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly numbers. All those little things really helped me get a really big picture of how I'm doing. It really acted as a way for me to just understand, what I'm doing and how I can be more efficient, like I just said. The more you dive into those details, again, you can start to fill the gaps. So, for example, early on in 2014, I was like averaging, a long time per sale, like an hour and 15 minutes per sale. And I really started realizing like there was other guys in the company who in the time that I would get one sale, they'd already have two. So for me, I spent a lot of time researching, and just identifying some points of how can I cut this down by 20 minutes? Because 20 minutes times 116 days in the summer equals a lot of extra time. That's potentially dozens more sales. And so, I really broke it down like you would a business or anything else. How can I be more efficient? Another thing with average money per sale, for me, I was always trying to increase that average. I knew exactly, every single week I'd break down the numbers of my paycheck and how many sales I sold, and I'd do the math and figure out, okay, I'm averaging this much per sale. Well, other guys are averaging more per sale because they're getting better quality accounts. So what can I do right now to make that change so that the rest of the summer I can reap the benefits of these small changes? Because again, it all comes down to small changes plus consistency equals, a big end result. So, if your quality is not as good as you'd like it to be and other guys are selling better, what can you do to change that? If you're not getting your processing fees, your activation fees, your install fees, whatever you have, what can you do to increase that? If your contract value is low, what can you do to increase that? For me, I was always bad at collecting processing fees, and once I made it a focus, I was able to really improve those numbers and those percentages simply because I identified it as a problem and began working on solutions. So again, diving into the details, I think again the word that comes to mind is obsessive. Really being a player in the game, really. Like you think about Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, and those guys are obsessed with how they're doing every single thing day in and day out. They know exactly what they put in their bodies. They know exactly what they do on the field. They know exactly how they train. They know exactly their mental preparation. Like they've got these details dialed in down to the T, and they know everything about their performance. And so that's the type of mindset that I've tried to take with this job is to be, a student of the game and always figuring out how to be better. So this last part, or second to last part that I want to talk about is actually something that when it comes to actual selling. So, in my experience, just seeing this page, the D2 Decon page, and going to door-to-door con, and sales in general, whether it's, door-to-door, insurance, real estate, any of these things, my perception has always been that a lot of people go about it the wrong way. What I mean by that is I think when I go watch sales reps, the number one barrier to entry for them to actually develop the skill of sales is customers immediately get the sense that they're being sold a product or pushed a product. They don't feel like they're dealing with a person. They feel like they're dealing with a slick salesman. So when I go on the doors or when I go out to offices to visit, one of the most important things that I speak to is making sure that you separate yourself as far as possible from that preconceived image of what the customer has when you knock their door. Okay, and what I mean by that is, in 2018, there's never been more ads than there is today. Right? As you go back in time, we haven't had nearly the means to communicate a product or sell a product to a consumer. In these days, we've got obviously all the basic stuff like, phone sales, billboards, advertisement, newspaper, all those traditional things, television. But in addition to that, we've now got Facebook, we've got, YouTube, we've got Instagram, we've got, all these different avenues, Snapchat, all these different avenues where people are constantly being bombarded by advertising. To add to that, there's a lot of gimmicky stuff out there. There's a lot of promotions that you see, whether it's the store or online or on Facebook, that are just gimmicky. They're trying to hook a customer to bite on their product, when the reality is the product might not be that good. The customer might try it and it just comes off like a cheap advertisement. So what I tell my reps is that you need to get as far away from that negative experience as possible. Again, when consumers engage in, a car sales interaction sometimes, or whether it be Facebook or online, wherever, oftentimes the result is negative, right? They have that negative experience that they remember and take with them to the next sales experience. And so because of that, it makes our job harder when you're offering a genuine service. So with that said, when a sales rep goes and knocks a door and comes off salesy, or sounds like he's there to pitch something, or puts his hand down and shakes the guy's hand, or has this high animated emotion, for me anyway, that just comes off not genuine. And I find that a lot of sales reps get bad responses to that. They get a customer who instantly puts their wall up and isn't interested in the offering, just because simply because it sounds like a sales pitch, and they've been trained by society and by their lives to push it away against that. So, for me personally, when I go out on the doors, I try to be, again, as far away from that persona as possible, and really be as genuine as possible, to be as much like Chris Melink as I possibly can. And a lot of guys have a hard time with that. If your personality is to be high energy and super emotional and have high tones and low tones, great. But if it's not, be yourself. And for me, when I go in the doors, I always try to emphasize that. I always try to highlight how important it is to be exactly who you are. Now, another technique that I use, and I kind of call this logic-based selling. I've kind of coined the term and worked with a couple guys on it. But when I work with a customer, again, back to that whole sales, avoiding the salesiness conversation, is I avoid trying to so much sell the product as I do trying to sell what's logical. So what I mean by that is, in the TV world, a lot of sales reps I see, they pitch on, with Dish, for example, about how many shows you can record at once, or all these different features the customer's going to have, or all these great things about why Dish is the best and how they're better than everybody else, and their customer service is the best, and all these different things. And what I found is customers, they appreciate those types of things to a degree, but really for them, what's more important is the logical decision. And so for me, that's what I've really trained guys to do. I try to work with them on, hey, let's find out what makes the most sense for the customer, and let's hone in on that. So what I mean by that is I don't sell Dish by telling about all the great features. I sell Dish by talking about what's going to be important to the customer. In 2018, the most important things are bill and a few basic features that apply to them. And I disqualify them from what doesn't make sense. So, for example, if a customer has DirecTV, one of the things I hit on all the time is DirecTV is a great service, right? I'm not someone who tells people that DirecTV is a bad service. It's an awesome service, right? You'd be crazy to tell somebody that. DirecTV has 20 million customers. How could they be a bad service if everyone has DirecTV? Instead, what I focus on is, who does DirecTV make the most sense for, right? Does it make the most sense for everybody? Or does it make the most sense for customers who have to have the NFL Sunday ticket and the extra pay-per-view sports channels, right? If it made sense to everybody, I would tell you guys to get it. I wouldn't have a job. Everyone would have DirecTV. That said, it doesn't make sense to everybody. It only makes sense to a few customers, right? It makes sense to customers that fit into this situation.
Here's a quick word from one of our awesome sponsors.
You're already an amazing salesman when you're on. When you're not on, you suck. And the problem is you don't know how to stay on all the time, because if you could, you would double your sales and double your income. One complimentary coaching session with me will get you unstuck, double your sales, and change your life. Go to helpmestayon.com now.
So what I try to do is I try to disqualify customers from what they have and then offer a solution. For me, one of the turning points and times when I really started escalating in my sales was when I learned that my product wasn't for everybody, okay? And I think that if you can understand that and realize that, you'll have way more success because customers can tell you're being genuine. So for me, again, a customer with Dish Network, I'll tell them, hey, DirecTV is great. In fact, if you bought the football package on DirecTV, the Sunday ticket, I'd be the first person telling you to keep telling you to keep DirecTV. That said, you guys don't use it. And as long as you're not planning on buying that, Dish is going to give you the exact same channels, better equipment, a price guarantee on your bill, and drop your price overall by $40 a month by doing nothing more than changing who you pay. Okay, so again, for me, I try to be very logical, and as opposed to just being the Dish guy and telling them Dish. Instead, I act like I'm looking out for their best interests about what makes sense for them. So I say a lot of lines like, if you guys are planning on buying that football package in the future, just tell me and I'll kick myself out. Like, I won't even waste my time because it wouldn't make sense for me to even be here. That said, if you haven't bought in the past, chances are probably pretty low that you're going to do it in the future. So this is why Dish is going to make way more sense. And I think customers, again, they really resonate with that. Another line that I use all the time is, if I can't drop your bill, give you guys brand new equipment, and get you all the same channels, I won't even waste my time. Because to be straight with you, I'm not here to push a product. I'm only going to do this if it makes sense. Okay. And again, people can respect that. Again, I try to separate myself from that sales persona where I talk about Dish being the best or Dish being this, that, or the other, because it's not the best, right? Certain customers, cable makes the most sense. Certain customers, DirecTV makes the most sense. Certain customers, Dish makes the most sense. Same thing with cell phones. We're doing a lot with cell phones now. Some customers who travel into the middle of nowhere, hikers or people that are in the mountains all the time, Verizon makes the most sense, plain and simple, right? They've got better coverage. Overall, they have better coverage. That's a fact. That said, for a lot of customers who don't fit into that small category, Sprint makes more sense because it's half the price. They get new phones and 3 or 4 other things. So again, I spend a lot of time with my customers disqualifying them from what they have and qualifying them for what I'm offering. Okay, so disqualify them from DirecTV or cable, qualify them, explain why in their situation, Dish makes the most sense. Okay, and that's kind of the key. Why in their situation, Dish makes the most sense. And again, like I just mentioned, focusing a lot on logic instead of sales. Okay, so I'll tell customers again, like I don't know, I'm trying to think of another good example. I'll say things like, if you guys had a great price on DirecTV or you guys had a great price on cable, I wouldn't even spend my time. I would tell you to keep what you have. That said, you're paying $130 a month for older boxes. You have just a basic channel package, and you're missing, and you don't have a price lock or whatever you want to say, right? So I'll use logic as opposed to just honing in on sales. And again, that's kind of a pullback to a degree where I'm actually pulling the service away and then redirecting it, to another place. So by utilizing those pullbacks and actually taking a step away from the customer, it really takes the pressure off them, and then you can kind of turn it back around and reapply that pressure. That's kind of the cycle of my sale is, kind of apply the pressure and talk about, why Dish makes sense, and then take a step back, reapply the pressure, take a step back. Anytime I'm getting objections or getting a customer where I'm having a hard time moving to the next step, again, I'll take the pressure off, kind of redirect, and then put the pressure back on and explain why it makes sense. So that's kind of my cycle. With rapport, this is another big part of my sales process is I think that too many sales reps, again, they try to be somebody they're not. They try to talk about things they don't know about. They try to, again, put on this facade of something that they don't represent. And so for me, I build rapport with genuine things. I'm myself. I'm the same person that I am on this video. I talk to customers about things that I know about. I don't try to BS them about things I don't know about, because again, humans are from day one are designed to spot those types of fake people or fake interactions. It's almost a defense mechanism. And so reps that try to be something they're not really run into problems. So my advice to you would be focus on the things that are important to you. Focus on things that you know about. Don't talk about features that you don't like. That's another big thing is when reps try to talk about features that they don't themselves find cool or important, customers can notice that. They can sense the lack of emotion or the lack of interest by the sales rep, and it comes off flat. And so For me, I focus on 2 to 3 things every single time, basically the same features. It changes a little bit based from customer to customer based on what their hot buttons are going to be, but I'm never trying to go into features that I don't find beneficial. And for a new guy or for anyone who's learning this, trying to get better, that's really, really important. It's been proven to me time and time again. When I go knock with a rep who really has an interest in the Game Finder app on Dish, I see them sell customers all the time on this Game Finder app, which I don't find cool at all, but that rep does, and because of that, the customer then does, right? It's a transfer motion. So that's a big part of how I operate. Really, really genuine rapport, nothing fake. The final kind of tip that I have is I reassure my customers big time on myself. So I talk about the fact that the beauty about going through someone like me is you guys have access to me, basically 24/7, right? The company I work for allows me to manage my own accounts. If you guys have a question in the future, here's my phone number. Please don't hesitate to call, okay? When I leave the house, I'll write them a big note. I'll text them. The second I walk out of the house, I'll say, hey, this is Chris Melink from DishOne. Thanks so much for letting me work with you guys. Let me know if you have any questions at all. Here's my contact info. So I'm really trying to reassure them by giving my contact information. And again, that just farthers down the path of genuineness, of professionalism, just letting the customer be at ease about the interaction that just happened and the sales process. The last thing you want to do is to walk away and the customer feel like that they just got duped or they got fooled. By giving that kind of one-on-one customer service, they feel good about that. So anyway, to sum it up, a couple important points. Sell your first account by 2 p.m. every single day. Can't tell you how important that is. Be on the doors early. Master prospecting and area management. Have a complete idea, know exactly the results you're getting every single day. Be able to break down how many doors you have to knock to get the number of sales, how many qualified buyers you have to come across. Know your numbers. Track your results and your competition obsessively. Know who's ahead of you. And I kind of didn't talk about that too much, but know who's ahead of you. Know who's behind you. Break down other guys in the company. Find out what your quality score is and your average commission per sale, and look at how you can slowly begin increasing that by making a couple tweaks. Small tweaks like that make thousands of dollars difference at the end of summer. And then logic-based selling. Disqualifying a customer from what they have, qualifying them for what you're giving them, okay? Don't just be the guy that's out there to pitch Dish because your product because it's the best. Go out there trying to sell your product because it makes sense to your customer, not just because you think it's the best. The moment you can accept that your product doesn't fit every customer situation will be the moment that you instantly have more credibility, because again, it's like going to a car dealership and trying to sell a customer who's looking for a fast car or minivan. Sometimes I see guys trying to do that, and I have to step in and say, hey man, like this just doesn't make sense. This customer, they're paying $60 a month for TV service, for internet and internet and TV. Dish isn't going to make sense. Okay, they're paying so low, it's not even a customer I'm trying to get. So again, qualify your customers. Final thing, build real rapport. Don't build fake rapport. Be a real person. Connect with your customers. Be genuine. Be the person on the doors that you are in the rest of your life, and you'll have a lot of success. Hopefully you guys found this beneficial. I didn't dive too much into satellite specifics because I felt like this stuff would be better used. Again, thanks to Sam for allowing me to participate. I think that the Door-to-Door Virtual Con is a great thing, and I think that we'll see a lot of benefit down the line with our industry being more legitimized and just getting more involvement from the community. So anyway, you guys have a good one. Hope you enjoy.